Good morning and welcome to EuroBoosTEX. Today we have prepared a complete agenda because one of the aims is to explain the Innovate Boost granting consortia that we have launched at early September. In this info day, we can explain in which way you can apply and all the consortia that can be created to prepare a proposal. To support you, also, we have an interesting webinar about the digital product passport. And after the info day, we have organized also a workshop explaining different tools for generate the different ideas to prepare a proposal and submit it under the EuroBoosTEX second calling consortia. To finish or to conclude the day, we will develop a matchmaking event, and you can establish or schedule different meetings with all the participants registered. And now it's time to start with the content and the agenda of the fourth webinar. In this case, I will bring the floor to Maria José Carvalho, Project Manager of CITEVE. Maria José, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Julia. Good morning to everyone. It's very nice to see you all here. So we'll start with this webinar related to the digital product passport, and we'll have two presentations. One more, we call it in theory, because we are speaking about the objectives, the technical and technological requirements and implementation of the European digital passport. And we have with us António de Sousa Maia from the European Commission that will present that part. And then in second part, we'll have Miguel Sá from CITEVE that will present a real case from the application of what can be turned in a real situation of the digital product passport. So we'll start with António de Sousa Maia presenting the European digital product passport. António? The screen is yours.
Bom dia, Maria. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'll give you a quick introduction on the concept and the context of the digital product passport. And then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Maria, there's time for some Q&A, right? So it's
yes, in the
an half an hour slot. I should do 15 plus 15, right?
You have the more or less 25 minutes, and then
25.
Yeah, and then we have after Miguel presentation also we have the Q&A part at the end of the program. Yeah.
Okay, so should we do Q&A immediately after my presentation or afterwards?
No,
or?
in the end, after Miguel.
At the end. Okay, very good. All right, so let me just share my screen. Do you see it? I don't think so.
Yes, we are seeing it.
Do you see the presentation?
Yeah, we are seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah, the flower. You can see the flower.
Yeah. Yes, everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good, because I can't see you, but that's yes. Fine. Okay, so just to provide you a quick context of where the DPP comes from and why it's there, we have a circular economy action plan which aims to introduce a circular economy, and specifically for textiles, we have a textile strategy. As you see there, it's one of the key products to be made a part of this circular action. The aim is to end a linear economy, whereby you source virgin raw materials from nature, and then you end up with the products in as waste being incinerated, landfilled. So what we want is to recycle them and then have secondary raw materials which come from recycled products feeding into the production chain. Textiles particularly has been flagged already policy-wise, so politically, as a priority product, although there was a consultation to determine which products were prioritary. For textiles, it's decided. And why? Because it has the fourth largest impact overall on the environment, and actually the third in terms of water use and land use. And on the other hand, there's only 1% of quality recycling, let's put it like that. So there's some downcycling of textiles going into rags and insulations, fillings, but there's really no recycling. So we really need to act. So the vision of the strategy by 2030 is to introduce this circular model, that the circular economy that I told you. We want textile products to be durable, repairable, recyclable, without dangerous substances, made of recycled fibers. We have a social action part as well. And so this is where the DPP comes in. So in order to be able to convey to all parties concerned, which are authorities, the companies themselves, and consumers, just how environmentally friendly or not the products are. The eco design proposal, which is really the key proposal, I would say, under the textile strategy, will introduce metrics, harmonized metrics, scales, if you want, to portray just how environmentally friendly products are. And then the vehicle to convey this information is the DPP. And we do this, and the DPP is also, so it's an information tool, but it's also a traceability tool, because we need some track and trace along the value chain, mostly the supply chain. I'll explain a bit better later why we focus on the supply chain, and even that has its own problems. So yeah, just to give you a quick idea of what we're doing on the regulatory side, we have a number of initiatives, but again, eco design, and then its ancillary proposal, the labeling, for which, by the way, there's a call for evidence ongoing, so you can go online and say your piece until the end of the month of September. Eco design is really key. I'll explain a bit more about it, but then there are other initiatives. There's a green claims initiative trying to combat greenwashing. There's the waste initiative, which is of course very important. It's the other big one, introducing an EPR scheme, an extended producer responsibility scheme. There's a due diligence initiative and a slave labor initiative for the social side. So, eco design. We aim to introduce eco design requirements. This is to make, by design, products more circular, more apt for this new circular economy. And there are two types of requirements. So there's information requirements, conveying under this metric that I told you, conveying to everybody, principally consumers, how green, how environmentally friendly products are. On those product aspects which you have there listed on your right. I won't name them all, but it's a full list. By the way, the eco design itself is in co-decision still. So things may change a bit, but it looks like in this case they won't change much. And then you have performance requirements. So performance requirements are actually more stringent requirements, which actually ban products from the market which do not score to a certain level in this metric of how environmentally friendly they are. So for example, if we consider it suitable and proportionate to ban products which are not at least a little bit durable, or a little bit recyclable, or a little bit repairable, we ban them from the market and they become prohibited products. They cannot be placed on the market. This is a performance requirement. So of course, the digital product passport is key for information, but it's also important for performance, because you need to provide information that actually a product is legal and it scores higher than the minimum. The legal architecture of the DPP, it's already in the proposal for the SPR, the framework regulation. By the way, the framework regulation is for all products. Potentially, there are some exceptions, but it's a framework for all products, and then you have delegated acts specifically for each type of product, including textiles. So you have there three, let's call it steps, but also types of intervention to make the DPP fully operable. So the concept, the scope, and the key features are already in the proposal, so you can read it. You can read it now. What we are now doing in terms of ICT, information technology, architecture standards and requirements is we're developing the concept for these essential technical requirements. And we even provided for common specifications to replace if a standard is not put in place which satisfies us. But we asked Senelec to prepare this standard, and that's already ongoing. By the way, in the labeling initiative, we will also have a digital label. I'll explain a bit more if I have time. which will be interoperable with the DPP, and information will feed back and forth between the digital label and the DPP, and the digital label will follow the same specifications. And then you have the third step, which is actually where I'm not an engineer, I'm a lawyer, so this is where I'm directly involved. We are developing the metric and the content for this manner of conveying just how eco-friendly products are. So we call these the eco design requirements, as I told you. So there's a preparatory work ongoing, led by the JRC, which is engineers, full of engineers. It's a very interesting discussions, and we are developing the preliminary concept for those requirements, which will be the content in a way of the DPP. So the key features of the DPP, so the key principles of the digital product passport is, first of all, there cannot be, because I should explain this first, because the DPP is actually developed by the companies. We will not provide, the Commission will not provide the technical solution and the technical infrastructure for the DPP. This will be developed by companies following the specifications that I told you about earlier. So, but in developing these solutions, there can be no proprietary solutions. So the information needs to be open, standard, interoperable, machine readable, structurable, searchable, so as to allow the system to be the various DPPs to be interoperable, but also to be interoperable with digital label and even other technical solutions that may come up in the future. In terms of granularity, so how low shall we get in terms of considering the products which are produced? The SPR as a framework regulation talks about 3 possibilities: model, batch, and item. I can tell you item is virtually impossible for textiles. Item means a pair of underwear, a pair of trousers, so that's impossible. So probably we're looking at batch. This is not decided on, but this is what we are doing, thinking of doing. Access rights, this is super important also for trade secrets, privileged information. So it's on a need to know basis. As I touched upon already, there are 3 main groups of people who deal and access the DPP. The economic operators, first of all, they have access to the largest set of information, of course. Then you have authorities, which have access to a subset of information. And then you have consumers, which only access what is really public information for consumer information. Liability is extremely important, and I have to say the proposal is not entirely clear in this regard. So it is clear that the economic operator who places the product on the market needs to come up with the DPP and fill it with information, but then he needs to procure to get information from the supply chain. And who is liable for the extent and the accuracy of the information? This, in a way, remains to be seen. Now in co-decision, they're discussing it, but there are problems of administrative burden here, which I'll talk about in 1 second. And then, of course, the track and tracing. So I told you already, there is some inherent track and tracing required in a traceability tool like the DPP. The basic part of track and tracing is to identify the operators and the facilities where the production takes place. But for example, for chemical substances of concern, there is currently a provision which may require a bit more, so we're also struggling with that. The DPP design has 2 parts, as I already hinted on. There's the DPP system, which is actually the ICT architecture of it. I don't know much about it, but I can tell you what my colleagues told me to say. So you have it there. It includes data carriers, access rights management, interoperability, so ICT lingo and ICT protocols and standards. And then on your right, you have the DPP data. This is actually where I'm very hands-on, where you have the information which will go into the digital product passport. And you see there that apart from the identifiers in terms of ICT language, we call attributes to the actual content. So the various eco-design requirements, the classes of performance, all of that meet, which will be in the DPP. Sorry, oh God, I have to go back. Sorry. All right. So what is, I hope you still see it. when I told you we're facing issues with the fact that the DPP information needs to be for the whole value chain. So first of all, the whole value chain would include the use stage and the waste stage. The use stage, the Commissioner for the Environment, CITEVE issues, was clear that we are not going to impose requirements on users, so consumers in general, and we are not going to impose requirements on platforms of second-hand use. So there we have a gap in the information. To require information from the waste stage is still to be decided, but it's not a priority. So we're left with the supply chain. In the supply chain, we have a problem, I would say, for most economic sectors, but for textiles is very acute, which is we have very limited vertical integration in the economy of the sector. So what we have is a supply chain scattered all over the globe, by the way, and composed of up to 99% of SMEs. So these companies will have to exchange information among them in order to feed into a DPP, which is ultimately the responsibility of the placer on the market, so the retailer. This is challenging, and actually we are already, although for the moment we are seeking not to keep it proportionate and not very administratively heavy, we are seeking to limit the requirements which actually require chain of custody or information traced back to sourcing of raw materials or even manufacturing overseas. So what we call tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 and up levels of information. We are seeking to limit this, but this will exist, and if it doesn't exist to a large extent in the first try, it will exist afterwards. So we're already telling companies and especially to trade associations that they need to start thinking about creating a network of information, first of all in real life, and then coming up also with technical solutions to have information technology network for exchange of information. So a big company which then has a lot of SMEs supplying for it should start putting these in place, and then for small companies all over the supply chain, trade associations should step in and should come up with these solutions. By the way, this network of exchange of information is outside the DPP architecture, but it should be fully interoperable, of course, also for your benefit, because then from this network of exchange of information, you need to upload to the DPP architecture, so it needs to be interoperable. But it's something external that you're not forced to do, but we recommend heavily that you do. So the DPP data, so the meat, the substance in the DPP, as you saw, there's a lot of identifiers, economic operator, a number of information. Of course, the economic operator placing on the market is not always the producer, because if production takes part overseas, it's the importer actually. Then we identify the facility, we identify the product batch normally in for textiles, and then what we call in ICT technology the attributes, which is actually the meat, so the eco design requirements and potentially other product information. Let me tell you that, as I hinted on already, we will also seek to introduce it still in very early stages. We're revising the textile labeling regulation, but we will seek to introduce a digital label, and then there will be exchanges of information between one and the other. And before you ask, I guess I still have time. What is the difference between the DPP and the digital label? Sometimes there's confusion. So the DPP, it's a large repository of information, and of course there's a subset of information which will go to consumers, but still it will be a lot of information. So the idea of a digital label, which is by no means necessary, maybe we won't do it, but the idea is to have a digital label on eco design information, so sustainability and circularity, in order to make the information punchier, clearer, more comparable, visually appealing. And I always give the example of washing machines, which there's a label for that already. So you go buy a washing machine and you see a scale from green to red, from A to F. This is what we're thinking a label could be good for. But then there already is a textile labeling regulation. We're actually revising it with fiber identification, which is extremely important to determine eco-design requirements. So there needs to be a link between fiber identification and eco-design requirements. And then we're also thinking of expanding labeling to other areas like origin labeling, like care labeling to take care of your products, to use less energy, to emit less microplastics, to repair it, and to then dispose of it correctly, among others. So as you can see, this is a coherent approach, and we really want to make this work together. So there will be that extra layer of digital architecture, which, as I've said, is supposed to be entirely interoperable with DPP if we indeed go for it. So a final word on timeline. We already adopted a standardization mandate. So basically, we asked the Senelec to develop a standard. This happened in mid this year. There's a proof of concept ongoing with the Surpass project. I think the speaker following takes part in that, so maybe you can tell you a bit about that. It's for batteries, there you go, textiles and ICT products. We will have a concept, tentative concept, a trial concept in March 2024, next year. And then now we're thinking we may have some DPPs up and running 2025, 2026. Let me tell you, it's a bit ambitious because it's a very complex endeavor. So let's hope we manage. Anyway, the ultimate deadline, the one we really need to stick to, and when we will have everything up and running, all the standards available, everything implemented in practice, all companies obliged to comply, is 2030 actually, but we're aiming for a bit before. For the moment we say 2025, 2026. And final words, that this is a fully participatory event. This is also why we're doing this tutorial. There's going to be workshops, there's going to be a lot of consultations on labeling, on the DPP. The preparatory work for eco-design is ongoing, but there will be an impact assessment with open public consultations, call for evidence. There's going to be a lot, so please do take part in this because we need you. And I think questions will come later. So thank you so much, and I'll be looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. So now we can go to the practical case of DPP and digital label, as I understood. So Miguel, the screen is yours.
Good morning to everyone. I will share my screen. I don't know, please tell me when you can see my screen.
Yeah, yes. we can see it.
Okay, I will present it. Okay, good morning to everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Miguel Sá. I work for CITEVE. CITEVE is the technical center for the textile and clothing industry here in Portugal. And I'm here to present the practical approach of CITEVE's project. First of all, I'm going to present a label for measuring the Sustainability Circularity Index of textiles. The name does not say DPP, Digital Product Passport, and this happens because we started this project before the legislation. Of course, when we were executing the project, the legislation came out, and so we aligned our project with the legislation. So the project that initiated all of this was the CITEVE Go Digital project. It is a project to the digitalization of the textile and clothing value chain here in Portugal. Okay, we have some numbers here, like the total budget and the duration, but the focus here is the consortium itself that is based with a lot of SMEs, software providers, textile companies, as well as research institutions such as CITEVE. This project finished this year in 2023, and I'm here to present the results. This project was composed of different PPS. So PPS is a product, process, or services. The one that I'm going to focus on is the PPS1, the Circular Economy 4.0. And I present here, just for you to know, the consortium of this PPS, as I said before, is a consortium of research institutions, as well as SMEs, 2 large companies, and as well as service providers and software providers. So our idea behind this project is that we deliver throughout the supply chain not only the physical product, but information related to the product itself, as well as the technical information, the resources that were used to make this product, the production processes that this product passed by, the value chain, as well as business and social ethical. So in order to achieve this, we decided to organize this information in 4 dimensions. These 4 dimensions are 2 related to the company and 2 related to the product itself. Related to the company, we have the economical and the social dimensions, and related to the product, we have the environmental and circularity dimensions. Each of these ones, like the company, the economical and social, we develop an index for this one. And then for related to the environmental and the circularity, we develop another index that you can see on the bottom. Both of these indexes are combined and they deliver a textile product label. And a little bit aligned, as the previous speaker just said, that with the washing machines, like it's a scale from A to F, with the green, the A, and the red to F. But later in the slides, I will show you exactly an implementation that we did. So related to the first index, the environmental and circularity index, we consider a wide variety of data. I will not get into much detail of this data, but just the big dimensions are: we consider the water, the energy, the chemicals that were consumed during the production of this product, the liquid and gaseous influence, the residues, the raw material, and also the durability. This is related to the environmental and circularity index, and we have the other index that is the economical and social index. That we consider like the financial autonomy of the company, the solvency, the profitability, as well as the social factors in order to ensure the working conditions, the equality, the training, if they have child labor or not. Here in Europe, we know that normally we don't have, but if it's we are going to smudge production processes are across the world, so we have to ensure that these dimensions were being respected. So the strategy that we developed to develop this project, we are tracking the batch level. It's the main axis to be tracked on which the value chain operation works, and we consider a wide variety of events. We consider authentication, of course, as well as the manufacturing events that go through the supply chain. And we also consider the transport between these different companies in the value chain itself. And associated with the transport, we have the dispatch and the reception of said batches. So these are the events that the companies, and I will get a little bit later into this, but each of the companies have to send data in each of these events itself. We did two supply chain pilots, one in the clothing industry, and this is a little bit different because typically this is a partitioned supply chain. So in this, we have to each step of the way, which production processes as a transport associated it, because each company is different. So the company that does the spinning is one company, and then the knitting is another company, and the dyeing and finishing another company. So we have to consider the transport along all these links in the supply chain. On the other pilot we did, it was the home textiles, and as I said, it's a little bit different because typically it's a vertical company that they do all these production processes indoors. So we don't have to consider all the transportation between all the production processes because they do it indoors. For us to identify, and we provide a lot of different solutions in this regard. The European Commission and Digital Product Passport, they expect a data carrier. In here, we defined a lot of different solutions in order for then companies to select which one better fits their needs. Excuse me, please, can you? Thank you. One, we provided an invisible marker. We have provided two types of invisible markers. One is fluorescent, that is the one that you can see in the screen. Then the next slide, I will show you the thermochromic, that is the one that when you apply heat, it shows the data carrier. Then we develop as well a coded and customizable polymerical fiber, and you can see that this fits seamlessly into the t-shirt. And then when under UV light, you can see the overhead. Also, we developed an NFC tag that allows a different solution because it has a different cost as well to develop this, and the company can choose this in order for you to access the digital product passport. In the next slide, I have this example, and in this example, you will see a thermochromic tag, data carrier, that you can see. And if you want, you can scan the QR code, and you will access the digital product passport that we developed. But I will pass the video. As you can see, my colleague, you cannot see the QR code, and after she puts her hand on there, the QR code is visible and be able to be scanned. And after the scan, you can access the digital product passport itself. In here, after you access the digital product passport, you can see a wide variety of data. This is our vision of the data. It's compliant with the DPP legislation, but it's only our vision. This is still being worked on by the European Commission, and when we have more information, we'll align with the legislation. But getting into detail, what is the data itself? We have a picture of the T-shirt. In this case, we have the composition and its color. Then we have the score that I was talking about before. We added the full 80%, the full percentage of the score, as well as a letter, an A to F. In this case, is a B, to be easily understandable by the consumers. Also, we have the product journey. It is all the steps and all the companies that this product pass through. We have the environmental and circular index and the social and economical index, as well as the detailed index. What is the detailed index? Is the detailed consumptions, as the European Commission calls, is the performance of the product. In this case, we have the water consumption. We have the chemical products that were used in the production. We have the carbon footprint, as well as the required waste, recovered waste throughout the supply chain. In the last page, this page is the little more less formal, is the maintenance and preservation, and that normally is in the physical tag, but in this page is expected for them to the brand, to the economic operator, to input all the data that they want to input regarding like the discard of the garment, the repair, the maintenance, and all of that. So after the execution of the pilots, we developed 4 products, and okay, we have the first pilot in the clothing supply chain. We have the white T-shirt, and I added here the score that they have also at the specific consumptions. And you can see that in the white T-shirt and the black T-shirt, it's easy to see that the white is a score of B and the dark is a score of C. So it's easy for the consumer to understand that one is better for the environment than the other, and they also can access, and I'm passing backwards and forwards for you to also see that the difference of the consumptions. You can see the water is triple, the chemicals is a lot more also, and it's shown in an easy way for the consumers to understand, and to just a scan of the QR code, we see the best environmental product. Also for the home textiles, in here you will see that they have both C score, but that's why we added the full number, the 69 in this case and the 67% in this case, for you to see that the consumptions are similar, but also you can see the details of these consumptions in detail. So in this project, we are now, as António said before, we are now working with the European Commission and the Surpass project. That is the project that is presenting that is defining how the digital product passport will work for the 3 value chains: the batteries, the ICT, and the textiles that are focused. And we are working as an experts with them in order for them to understand our requirements and to understand our project and to see what's the best solution. In this moment, we already finished this project, the CITEVE Go Digital, and we focused a lot on the Portuguese supply chain. Now we started a new one, that is the BIT project, and the idea of this project is to expand this first project to an international supply chain. And as well, all we know, it has different types of challenges because we operate in different markets. That is not just the European Union market. In this project, on the BIT project, it's fully aligned with the DPP legislation. We also have one that is the text pack that is just started as well, that the goal of this project is to standardize the exchange of information throughout the supply chain in order to ensure that these companies are exchanging information, communicating effectively and using the same language. And as I call in here, my background is a little bit more technical. I am from information systems, but I like to use this analogy that is, I'm speaking English today for all of us to understand, but if I spoke Portuguese, probably none of us will understand, only the Portuguese. If I spoke French, only the French. And so we need to speak a common language for all of us to understand each other. And in this case, it's the same thing. We have to define a common language for the information systems to work together and to be interoperable. So I will not get much more into detail. I will just say that in this moment, if you want to check information, please feel free to scan these QR codes. And I just want to have the one final note that this, as António said before, is a challenging project. And I don't think anyone alone can do all of this. And it's only possible if all of us and all of the supply chain and all of the European clusters work together. So please feel free to work together. And any questions you have, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you so much for both of you, Miguel and António. So now we can open the discussion. So if you want, you can open your micro and present your question, or you can also put the question in chat if you prefer. And we have now some time here to do it. I think everyone is processing the information. It was a lot of information. So it's natural that we don't have straight ahead questions, but we can wait just a little bit more. And while we are waiting, I have a question first for António. And the question is, as I understand, the DPP and also the digital label have a relevance and will be implemented in European level because it's European legislation. So what is planned and what are the strategy in terms of the European Union for the products that are coming from outside to the market in Europe? So how these DPP will be relevant for the products that are coming from outside Europe?
Should I reply outright? Okay.
Yes, please.
Indeed, that's a very, very good point, and I actually forgot to mention it. So this is product legislation. So in technical terms, both the eco design and the textile labeling regulation, they're product legislation. This means that they apply to products as placed on the market. This is legal lingo to say that it applies to all products, irrespective of where they're manufactured. So the trigger for application of these requirements are placing on the market, which it's again lingo to making available for the first time, which means just, well, let's say it not very accurately but clearly, put up for sale, either online or on physical shops. And then you will ask me, in physical shops, it's easy because then the physical shop is located in the EU territory. Online, how do you determine if the product is being placed in the EU because it's made available for the whole world in case of platforms which are directed at the whole world? This is indeed a very complicated issue. If you want to read more about it, there's the Blue Guide specifically addressing this. You can Google it up. But I'll tell you that there are key indicators to say that the platform is targeting sales in the EU. And if this happens, then they need also to comply with the requirements. So in a nutshell, these requirements apply irrespective of where the product is produced, if it is intended and sold in the EU market, which presents a lot of challenges, and we're actually being contacted by third countries already worried about this.
Thank you so much. So we have now here some information. I think they say, thank you for great work in Portugal. I really would like to hear if it is there any interconnection between DPP efforts for international textile suppliers outside Europe and border carbon mechanism of the EU in the means of the project activities. So Miguel, I think it's for you, but I think António can also say something if he has any information. In terms of project, there is any connection?
We are now starting to do the pilot in the international supply chain. We are still to understand the international suppliers, they have to be compliant with our regulation. I don't know if I understand the question correctly, or if there is any connection between the DPP efforts for international. As far as I know, I don't know if there's any connection with the border carbon mechanism of EU at this moment, but we can consider this later. I don't know if António, in my project, we don't have any more information about that. I don't know if António knows better than myself.
If I understand the question correctly, in terms of substance, not so much in terms of project preparation, I think you're asking whether when we implement these border carbon levies that we are seeking to implement in order to level out the playing field, so that products produced abroad, which do not follow the same environmental principles as ours, have a level playing field in terms of requirement, because they come in cheaper because they don't have to comply with those complex requirements. Maybe that's the gist of the question. I would say that for the moment, we have an holistic approach for eco-design. So meaning we want to address all issues of environmental impact in terms both of information and actual requirements to ban the least performing within the eco-design structure. So I would say for the moment, we are not linking the two. This is not to say that we won't in the future, because one of the eco-design product aspects is indeed environmental impacts, which then has parameters for carbon emissions. So this is a possibility, and we will look into it. But I have to tell you that for the moment, neither this product aspect, environmental impact, being read as carbon impact, water use, land use, is not a priority, because there's another project developing standards for this, which you may have heard of, which is PEF-CR. So PEF-CR is developing standards for this. We're waiting for these standards to develop in order to feed them into the eco-design. So for the moment, the answer is no, there's no specific interconnection, but it's not ruled out in the future.
Thank you so much. I don't know if any else had any question to or write down, or you can say it as you wish. So while everyone is thinking, probably I can put another question. And the other is, for now, also I'll start with António, but I also would like to know the Miguel thoughts on that. Is, for now, what we are developing in the European Union related with the DPP and the digital label, so all the information connected with the eco-design to a product, in this case, in textile product, is more or less for information. So is something that we are collecting and have at the end have the possibility for the final consumer or the client can decide it on the best option based on information. This is for now. Do you think in future this can mean that the European Union can say we can only put on market products with a certain performance in terms of sustainability? Is this the future or not?
It is. I hinted on it in my presentation. Maybe I was a bit too fast about it. So indeed, for now, we're focusing on information, which is already a big job. We are developing the specifics and the metrics behind the priority eco-design product aspects in order to introduce an harmonized objective concept on how to portray just how eco-friendly products are. I can explain quickly that the tree of specificity for the information goes from, there's an eco-design product aspect. So let's take durability. Then you have parameters, which are sub-dimensions. This is also mentioned in the eco-design proposal. So there are sub-dimensions of durability that we consider. For example, for durability, color fastness, meaning how fast the color fades. Integrity of the product in washing, meaning when buttons fly off and get separated, so on and so on. And then you have below each parameter, we have specific requirements. So this is where it gets tricky. So for information on requirements, we have essentially two types of requirements. We have qualitative and quantitative requirements. If we're talking about information, we can do qualitative. We can say, well, an extreme example, after 10 washes, it's a mixed requirement, by the way, because it has a quantitative aspect. But let's say after 10 washes, the t-shirt still looks good. Okay, this is partly qualitative. If we're talking about information, okay, maybe we can go there. It's not very objective, but we can go there. But we are seeking, even in information, to do it fully quantitative. So, for example, after 10 washes, color disappears up to, and then 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. And then there's a scale, right? Not only we need to develop standards for testing and measurement of this to further densify what we're talking about, but also if we go for performance requirements, which is fully the idea in the future, and we'll start already in the first trial of the first version of the delegated act, we need to be far more specific than for information requirements, because then we really need to say what, very specifically, what is the boundary between what's allowed and not allowed. But not only that, we need to do a life cycle assessments for the requirement itself in order to make sure that we are not actually having a negative impact overall, because there are trade-offs between the various product aspects, right? So for example, when you score very highly in durability, normally, at least for now, it means it's an artificial fiber, not a man-made fiber. Normally, oil-based, fossil fuel based. So if this is true, then theoretically it may score lower in other product aspects like environmental impact, recyclability. So one thing we cannot absolutely do, and this is hindering actually a lot of races to the top that some people want in terms of performance, we cannot require both at a very high level, because that's just technically impossible. And then we need to consider, this is technical feasibility, then we need to consider economic feasibility. These requirements need to be feasible on the ground. With today's technologies, which are widely available, I'm not talking about a high-tech laboratory in Germany. We need things that are on the ground or very easily implemented on the ground, and they need to be purchasable, being able to be financed by companies as they are now, and we're talking about 99% SMEs. So we're very careful about that. But indeed, its performance requirements are the future. But not only they are extremely complex technically to flesh out, but also they have very acute proportionality assessments of technical and economic feasibility that we need to look out for. So I would say, yes, they will come, but they will come in stages.
In our case, Miguel, the performance indicators are already there.
Yes, we just provided what we thought it was the best approach. Of course, it's not finalized. Also, as the European Commission provides more information, we will align with the European Commission. But at this moment, is our vision of it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me just clarify something, if I may, super quick. There is confusion, which is perfectly understandable because we're not very good at clarifying sometimes. One thing is classes of performance and performance. I don't know the term you use, but description or portrayal, right? The other thing is performance requirements. So of course, classes of performance are essential for information. You depict information-wise to give information just how products perform. So this is still information. Huh? Performance requirements is taking the leap of saying below a certain class of performance. This is why I'm telling you for performance we need quantitative requirements. Below a certain class of performance, you cannot place products on the market. So there's a difference between performance requirements and performance classes and information.
Great. So we have here another, I think, two questions. One is DPP going to have any measures of verification regarding the resources, energy, water, chemicals, etc., usage, performance of factory, or it is going to use the data declared by the factory?
Oh my God, that's a big question. That's a big question. How shall I say it? Well, first of all, I'll start out by saying we're having huge discussions about this. They are confidential, as you can imagine. But let me tell you this. The eco design proposal already says that we need to follow the new approach. I don't know if you know it. The new approach is a decision based on court jurisprudence, which has an annex, which lists the models of conformity assessment. It goes from the least stringent, A, to the most stringent, which is C, I think, C something. So in order to be, again, economically feasible, but also technically feasible, because third-party verification, meaning you have an independent body checking whether you're complying with requirements, is not only extremely expensive for the companies themselves, again, we're talking about SMEs, but also there's no capacity installed for this. There are no third-party certifiers available, and they won't be in the future for the massive sector that the textiles are. So I would say that because of these two inevitable restrictions, limitations, we will more or less go for the internal, what's it called, internal control mechanisms, meaning I won't say self-declarations because my environment colleagues will freak out, but it will be largely based on information provided by the company, avoiding third-party certification as best as we can. There are other dimensions to this, like super fast. It's a really complicated issue. If you have declarations from the company, if they are product related, if they can be verifiable on the product, this is not a big problem for market surveillance, because then they take the product and they just, or customs authorities, they take the product, they test it, they verify it. The real problem comes when you have requirements, as you hint on your question, which pertain to the production process, meaning the factory. Here we have problems not only in terms of who will actually check, but where will they check? Because if production takes place in Bangladesh, we don't have jurisdiction. So this is yet another problem we are facing. So in a nutshell, to reply to your question, the requirements by nature and by law do have specifications on testing and measurement standards, yes. How we will then implement this in terms of technical documentation required to accompany the product, so with the CE marking, and how will the production controls take place in terms of conformity assessment, meaning third-party certifications or not, this is still to be seen. But I think textile sector asks, certainly in a first stage, to be very, very simple, have a straightforward approach, and be based on the product and without much third-party certification, I would say.
Thank you. We have another question. This is really interesting. Are you also adding in digital label manufacturer and consumer content? Example, how many consumers were and for how long the same item before destroyed were used? So they are talking about the usage part of the textile, if it's included. I know, Miguel, I know you want to say something, but António, Miguel.
I can say, I believe António said during this presentation that this part is not going to be included on the DPP, but also that's why I was about to speak, because we on the BIT project we have one smaller project inside that project that we are working exactly on that. We have one that is working on the DPP throughout the supply chain, and then we, in order to close the circular economy, we are starting to understand how we can use the consumer and can you get data from the consumer that can influence the consumer to have better habits using their clothing and their own textiles as well. And how can they discard the garments? How can they repair the garments? And all of that. So we are doing that, but as António said, I believe the European Commission is not going as far as that.
Thank you so much. And then last one, is information on the garment stored in the mobile app even when the item is destroyed, damaged, and the code cannot be scanned? So information will be still accessible even if you don't have the physical garment. I don't know, Miguel.
I can tell you from the legal point of view, and then Miguel kicks in. From the legal point of view, we will seek to require characteristics, but very broadly worded, to allow for. We try to be technology neutral, but we will require the what's we call the digital identifier, I think. So the gateway to access the DPP information and then the digital label information, if we have one, to make it as durable as possible. So this is a key concern for us. And not only that, but we also heard, and this is also useful for Miguel, we also heard from waste managers that we cannot go, they say, let's see, that we should not go for a peer-to-peer communication solutions, meaning the near-field communication is a no-go for them, because in order for automatic sorting to take place, we need other technical solutions. So we're looking at this very carefully. We're looking for the best technical solution. It needs to be durable, that's for sure. It needs to stay on the clothes throughout second, third, fourth uses, which we hope will happen a lot, and then in the waste management stage for sure.
Okay, just in order to complement what António just said, I don't know if the question, I understand the question a little bit differently, and I think what were asking is that if we no longer have the product, if they can still access the data related to that product. What I can say that from my works, if they are considering the European Commission using the international data spaces, and this is like a database, a way to store the data that is forever. As I said, we in this project STV Go Digital, I didn't get into much detail. We use the blockchain solution in order to ensure that that is immutable, the data, and it's stored there forever, and no one can change it. Also, the European Commission then provided some more information, and they said that they're going to use the international data space architectures. So they do somewhat the same thing as a blockchain technology, but in a decentralized way. It's much more efficient. So yes, you can still access all information even when you no longer have the garment.
Yeah. And last one, I think, because we have new other activities during this morning with the project. And the question is, if primary data is not available from suppliers, can secondary data be used from database like EcoInvent? So can we go take information not directly from suppliers, but use information that are available from databases that says that, for I imagine like something like that, for reduce yarn for this type, you use X of energy. So like standard values, something like that. Can you use that or not?
Theoretically, if the requirement for information is at the design level of granularity, I imagine we could think of that. But the idea is to require it at batch level. So actually the information needs to come from the actual batch. So you cannot say this type of wool by design scores like this. You need to say the wool included in this batch of products scores so like this. So no, if we go for batch level, which seems to be the case, this cannot happen.
Okay. I would like to thank you so much because we have last minutes for this part to start the next one. Thank you so much, Miguel and Antonio, for so extraordinary presentation. I would like for the ones that are assisting this, if you could, in this last minute, write down in chat from 1 to 5, how interesting do you find this webinar? This is relevant for us to see how we can improve it next time. So please write down on chat from 1, very bad, to 5, very interesting, what you thought about this webinar. And thank you so much, Miguel and Antonio. Thank you again, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, bye.